presentation of AIT.
Children grow and change. Literacy programs need to grow and change with them. Structure, organization, teaching strategies all need to change to match children's developmental patterns. A reading program where the shared book experience is the major component is developmentally appropriate for children who are mostly emergent and transitional readers. But as the composition of the class shifts to mostly beginning readers who have some independence, shared book lessons fade out. Literacy events are now organized so that children have more opportunities to read independently. Reader's Workshop is an excellent way to organize literacy events at this point. Today, we're going to visit Marianne Kelly's first grade classroom to see how she does Reader's Workshop. Marianne, tell us a little about why you're doing Reader's Workshop in your classroom.
I used to be a Basel teacher, but I didn't feel that way of organizing meets all of my students' needs. I wanted to teach reading so that all children would experience success and develop independence and a love of reading. That's what interested me about Reader's Workshop. It allows me to teach a child-centered literacy program that is developmentally appropriate. It's taken me about 7 years to get where I am today, and I still have a long way to go. It's been hard to make a shift in my thinking.
You're making a very important point. The kind of change you made takes time and requires a complete shift in the way you think about the reading process and teaching. This kind of change doesn't happen quickly, or by experiencing a one-shot in-service, or by administrative mandate. Regie Routman put it very well in a recent interview.
I think the main thing is to allow yourself lots of time. The thing that I worry about is we get a lot of visitors, and administrators are expecting everything to happen magically in 1 year. And that means teachers don't have time for reflection, and that's so important. So I think the first thing is if teachers know that it's a 5 to 10 year process, that's what I believe. When I say that, the teachers usually breathe a sigh of relief, and the administrators go, you can almost hear the sigh, because they want it right away. And then I think that takes the pressure off of teachers just to go very, very slowly. To maybe try one thing the first year and then add something else the second year. Maybe start with shared reading the first year and perhaps journal writing. Something like integrated spelling takes about 5 years to get to that point, according to the teachers that I'm working with. And then I think most important is, as you and I were talking before about the paradigm shift, unless teachers are willing to really take the time to do some professional reading and reflecting, there's really not going to be any change at all. Because we're not talking about just a change in methodology, and that's what we've been used to as teachers because we've been scripted technicians for so long. We've had these manuals. We're not talking about that kind of change. We're talking about the kind of change that takes place here. You can't see it. And that takes years because it's such a major philosophical shift. I'm still amazed. For me, I've been in process like for 10 years. And I still revert back to a skills model every once in a while because that's what I had all my schooling years, my college years. And so it's a very, very slow process. But it has to be a thoughtful process. And I think that's what this whole shift is about, is really thinking about your teaching. Why are you doing what you're doing?
That's me. I've attended conferences, visited classrooms, taken classes, read and read some more. I've been in a study group and various literature focus groups with other teachers. All the time, I've been gradually making changes in my classroom while I was changing my thinking. I started very slowly, too.
I know that as part of that change, you had a chance to take a short course with Jane Hanson on Readers and Writers Workshop. Jane gave an overview of the workshop idea in a recent interview.
What I think of when I think of Readers and Writers Workshops in first grade and somewhat in kindergarten, I'm more familiar with first grade, what I think of is a time of the day where, if you think about it in a very literal sense, the readers and writers are working. That's what makes a reader and writer workshop. Maybe toward the end of first grade, some of the first grade children would be spending some time reading and writing alone. But this isn't a silent time. This is a work time. The children, whether or not they're writing or reading, are usually near someone else, if not actually with someone else. The classroom isn't set up in rows with the children separate from each other. We see them doing other things too. They might have mini lessons where the children and or the teacher share with the class something new that they have learned, something new that they are trying to learn. Besides mini lessons, they also share their work with the entire class. Most of the teachers that I know have a few children, maybe about 3, share their work with the entire class every day. I also see small groups. I see small groups every day, just as we have always had groups in reading. But I don't see the same kind of groups anymore. I no longer see bottom groups, middle groups, and top groups. In other words, in one first grade classroom where I worked for quite some time, there were 8 children on the first day of school who couldn't write their name. Well, the teacher didn't put those 8 children into the bottom writing group. What she did was, when the children were writing at various tables in the room, the children were all mixed up. So a couple of the children who couldn't write their name were sitting at a table with other children who were writing some letters, and a couple of other children who were actually writing more complete thoughts. The children who can't write their name will learn how more quickly from children who can than from other children who can't. And this is the same for reading. The children who, right now, read by, and this is perfectly legitimate, they read by taking a book and telling the story of the book. Those children will learn how to read more readily if they spend their reading time with children who know how to read by actually attending to the words than if they spend their time with the other 6 children in the class who don't know what it means to look at the words when you read. So what I see now are mixed groups where children who read and write in different ways come together. So I see all of these things. Number 1, time to read and write. Number 2, an all-class share. Also some small groups, and also some lessons where we talk about the new things we're learning.
Marianne, how have you organized your first grade class for Reader's Workshop?
I have the basic components Jane talks about, but I've arranged my program to fit my children's needs. We start the morning with learning stations, which are cross-curricular, reading, math, and science, for example. Next comes Writer's Workshop. I learn so much about their reading from their writing. Their writing tells me what my students internalized about the sound symbol system and other strategies too. Then I move into Reader's Workshop. I usually begin with a whole class mini lesson. The mini lesson could focus on strategies, some aspect of children's literature, or workshop procedures.
Yes, and the specific topic for the lesson comes from your observation of children's needs, don't they?
Yes.
I find it interesting that we do mini lessons on topics that were never part of basal lessons because of those observation of children's needs. For example, choosing books.
In my class, we talk about how all readers have easy, just right for learning, and challenge books. This mini lesson focuses on choosing their weekly books. A weekly book is a new book that is just right for learning. The children work out the book in a variety of ways before they conference with me about it. Do you remember when we talked about how to choose a book? Yes. And we've been practicing, and you gave me all these good ideas about how to choose a book, didn't you? Yeah. All right. So let's go over some of those ideas and talk about what you do. And if there's some other things you do that aren't on here, please tell everybody, because that will help us so we know how to choose books. You said to look inside to see if it's good, to look for one that's just right. You know most words. Try reading it. If it's too hard, put it back. Uh-oh, What does this say? Andy.
Do a walkthrough.
What does that mean?
You can like see if it's too hard or if it's too easy or if it's just right.
Okay. Okay, Miles?
Well, for a walkthrough, like you can kind of look through the pictures and you kind of don't like the pictures and you think the walls are too hard, you could put it back and try a new one.
Has that happened to you sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a couple of times. So you've had experience with that. See if it's a challenge book. Is it okay to read challenge books sometimes? Yeah. To look through the pictures?
Yeah.
Who was it? I think it was Scott the other day that picked a book that was very hard because he wanted some information about some sports, didn't you? And you couldn't read all the words, but you just needed some information. If it's too easy, we put it back for a weekly book. We try different strategies. What does that mean, trying different strategies? Andy?
I try to sound the words out and then I'll know that word and then I'll read that sentence over and I'll see if it makes sense and then I'll know what it means.
Emily, what do you do? What is the strategy you use?
If I don't know the word, I do it over and over, and if I still don't get it, I ask a friend at my table.
You know, Perry used a way to choose a book today that was one that's not even on the chart we're going to have to add. Perry was reading a book today called The Wizard and the Rainbow, and he decided to choose another book to read. And how did you choose that next book? What was the same about A Wizard Came to Visit as The Wizard and the Rainbow? Was there anything the same?
The Wizard?
The Wizard. Did you like The Wizard? Sometimes we choose books about characters we like, right, Eric? How many of you have read a Clifford book and then picked another Clifford book because you liked Clifford? So I guess we read books about the same characters sometimes, don't we? We better make a new list. What do you think?
Yeah!
How could we say that? If we want to choose a book, we might choose a book that what?
Has the same character.
Has the same characters. And, yes, Perry.
If you want to have one that you like rainbows and about space, you could choose that one.
So you would choose books about things you like? Oh, another one. Gee.
You use that mini lesson time in other ways too, don't you, Marianne?
Yes, I do. I do lessons that focus on my thematic units sometimes. And at the beginning of the year, when I still have a number of emergent and transitional readers, I do the shared book experience with them. But that soon gives way to guided reading with small groups, while the rest of the class reads independently or with partners.
That guided reading looks different from the way we used to do it, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. The idea is to get the children involved in using the cover, the book title, and the pictures to build some ideas for what the book will be about. It's also important to talk about any vocabulary or concepts that may need clarification. This is done while the children are looking through the book. The process activates background knowledge and establishes a meaningful context for reading that book. It is based on Mari Clay's work and is called a walkthrough. Eventually, children take over the walkthroughs and do them independently. Let's take a look at how this works.
Morris's disappearing bag. Is it been on TV? Well,
I have the book. Reading Rainbow.
you have the book and it's been on Reading Rainbow. Well, Morris is another little bunny and he got a present. What did he get for Christmas? Megan, what did he get?
A bear.
He got a bear in a big box, didn't he? What does this say down here?
A Christmas Story.
By Rosemary Wells. All right, we've looked at the picture, and I'm going to give you each a copy of the book. And what we're going to do today is we're going to read the book. But before we read the book, we're going to do something that we all know how to do. And that's something we do before we read books, usually.
A walkthrough.
Okay, we're going to do a walkthrough together as a group. We're going to talk about it. Just turn to the title page. Remember what that... Oh, look, this author did some things. Now, a lot of you as authors have started doing this when you write your own books. This author put some pictures on the first page. Now, let's look at the cover, and we'll be detectives. This is Morris on the cover. Can you find Morris on the title page? Put your finger on him when you find him. I found him.
He has Holly on his shirt.
And why did you notice that?
Because my name is Holly.
Your name is Holly, that's right. And he has Holly on his overalls, I think, doesn't he?
Holly Berry.
Holly berries, too. Who do you suppose these other three people are? Who do you suppose they are? Emily.
His cousins or his brothers and sisters.
His cousins or his
mom.
brothers and sisters, or his mom and dad. Turn to the first page.
Other one.
Let's look at the pictures. What's happening in the pictures? Andy.
They woke up on Christmas morning, then they're walking down the stairs.
I think they're jumping too, don't you think? They're
Morning.
floating.
Morris is jumping.
Who's down at the bottom of the stairs, Holly?
Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad.
Yeah, with lots of what?
Toys.
Resins. Turn to the next page. Uh-oh. Somebody got something. What do you think he got? Amanda.
A ranger shirt.
A ranger shirt. What kind of sport would this be, Scott? Scott.
Hockey.
Hockey. All right. And then this is his brother. His brother's name is Victor. Can you find the word Victor in the print? Just point to it. We're not reading it. We just find the word. What letter does Victor start with? Victor. Can you say it for us, Lynn? V. The next page is a picture of another bunny. This is his sister, Rose. Can you find the word Rose in the print? Can you find the word Rose in the print, Scott? What did Rose get for Christmas?
A makeup table, just like I got it.
Makeup table. Turn to the next page. Oh, this is Morris's other sister. Her name is Betty. Can you find the word Betty in the print? Oh, you did. What does Betty start with? Andy? Okay, good for you. What did Betty get?
A science table.
A science table. It looks like that.
Some liquids for science.
Okay, liquids for... Oh, what a good way of explaining it. Do you know what we call liquids for science?
No, chemicals.
Chemical. Oh, good. Can you find a word that looks kind of like might be chemicals?
Chemistry.
Do you know what that word might be? It's chemistry. Have you ever heard that word before?
Yeah.
It means working with chemicals. Good for you. Okay, we've looked through quite a bit of the book now. And I want you to just for a few minutes on your own look through the rest of the pictures to the end. Uh-oh, he found a page where we just see the end of Morris. Why would that be?
Because he got... Look right here, his leg isn't showing.
His leg isn't showing. Excuse me.
I don't want...
Why?
So I can, now you only can see his leg.
Why? Andy.
A disappearing bag he went into.
He went into that disappearing bag. Wouldn't that be an exciting thing to have? Would you go into it and hide from Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm going to put you with partners and I'd like you to read. You know one?
Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad, yeah, don't forget them. They're important characters. Then students partner read. I walk around and observe how they're doing. I also coach their problem solving when they get stuck. Then we come back together. The students talk about their favorite parts and some read them aloud. Students can continue to read the book during independent workshop time if they choose. Perry?
You know which part I laughed at?
Which part did you laugh at?
I'm going to read this part. It's going to be real funny, and I'm going to read. Here, you want to read together? Sure, but I'm going to find that page. Okay. Where is it? Can I read it?
Let him read it.
Maybe
this is
he
his funny
blew
part.
himself up.
Oh, where is that page? Show us the page. Where they couldn't find him because he went inside?
Yeah, see? Yeah. Maybe. No,
Okay, why don't you read it here?
maybe he blew himself up.
How could he blow himself up?
That's what we were wondering. And that's right there. He's right there. No, with me and Andy, can we read our funniest pages?
Could you find the funny? Find
I know mine.
it. Can you show everybody to get there? It's the dinner page.
The dinner page. Morris wouldn't come his dinner. What's the matter with Morris? Asked his father. I think he hit himself with the hockey puck, said Victor.
I can see that the kids really enjoyed reading about Morris. Sustained noisy reading and workshop time is next.
During workshop time, children work on their weekly book. They reread their favorites, they read an easy book, or they might read a new book. I conduct individual conferences or small group shares at this time.
Let's take a look at an individual conference.
I was just noticing that. You read this, and look at that. Do you think they're the same? Mm-hmm. Have you read this one yet? Did you like this one?
Yeah.
Do you think you might want to read another adventure?
Yeah.
You might or not? Well, let's save it, and you can decide, okay? All right, what are you going to read to me today? What part are you going to pick to read? Are you going to read the whole thing to me, or just part of it, or what are you going to do? Well, I don't know if we have time for the whole thing. How about if we read part of it? What do you think? Do you want to read the beginning, or the ending, or the middle, or where? You choose. And I think we'll read about maybe 3 or 4 pages because you've got such a long book, huh?
We found a rainbow fountain with raining rainbow-colored drink. The wizard had an orange juice and I had fizzy pink.
What's fizzy pink? Do you think it'd be good? It would be good? Let me see the fountain. Wow, wouldn't that be fun? To go to a fountain and just take any color? Let's see what happens here.
A wishing well for rainbows said your wishes will come true. The wizard wished a secret wish that made his nose turn blue.
His nose turned blue? What do you suppose he wished to make a nose turn blue?
I don't know.
You don't know. Did you notice something about the story when you were reading? Well, let me read it. Your wishes will come true that made his nose turn blue. What do you think?
Some of them rhyme.
Some of them rhyme. Is there a rainbow on every page in this book? Looks like it.
Right here,
There's one.
here.
He just must have rainbows with him everywhere, doesn't he?
Andy was getting
Was this a true story?
No,
What was it?
it's the makeup story.
Just a make-up story. You answered all my questions. You read with your buddy. You did the best part on the best. Oh, the rainbow, of course. You told me that was your best. I can tell you did a really good job. Scampered was a tough word, huh? Do you think the rainbow would be a fun guy to have in our classroom? He would, huh? Do you think he'd do magic tricks? Do you know, I picked another book I thought you might like with magic. Let me see if it's down here. As you can see, I have them talk about their books and read a part they've chosen. Then I take notes and do a running record. From this, I can see how they feel about their book, the nature of their comprehension, how they're doing with book choice, and what strategies they're using for problem solving.
You know, Marianne, this kind of teacher observation is an excellent integration of assessment with instruction. You can keep track of children's growth and development. And when you use running records in this way, you have solid information about students developing control of strategies for word analysis, and it's done in the best possible way during reading. Then from this information, you can also get ideas for topics for mini lessons.
This really works for me. At any time, I know where my students are. I know their strengths and what they're trying to learn. Through this observation, I know what strategies to emphasize. I know how to help these students access a balanced repertoire of reading behaviors. And then parents can drop in at any time. I can pull out my notebook and the student's reading folder, and I have the information I need to communicate how their child is doing.
What do you have the children put in their reading folders?
Well, they're reading logs for one thing. They fill these in during the workshop. They keep other material, their weekly book, and work in progress in the folders as well.
What next?
Next is a sharing time. Sometimes we set up small group shares where the children are reading different books. Other times, the children get together to read the same book.
Well, it's around Christmas, and then their kids want a dog, so they buy a dog. They go to the dog pound and they look at the dogs, and they buy a dog, and then all the children are happy. It says Merry Christmas, everyone. So I think the dad said that, and the mom, and they gave them the dog. Parker. Why'd you pick Christmas, Doug, and what's your favorite page? My favorite page is this one, and I picked it because Mrs. Kelly said it'll be a just right book for me, and it's about Christmas. Good for you. How? I like the book.
Other times, I have students share their individual reading with the whole class.
My book's called Corduroy, and I picked it because I like teddy bears. My favorite part is this part.
Did you want to read that to us, or not? Okay.
He flashed his light under the sofas, the beds, until he came to the biggest of all. And there he saw 2 fuzzy brown ears sticking up from under the covers.
There's some people with questions.
Why did you pick the book? Because I like teddy bears and I like this story. Avi, how come you picked that page? Because I like that page and I like the fuzzy ears. Scott.
I like the part where he tries to. I read that book. I like the part where he tries to pull that button off the bed.
I expect that other children will pick up Corduroy to read after hearing Andy talk about it.
Yes, children get lots of ideas about what to read next from each other. It really keeps books moving in my classroom.
Well, Marianne, now that you've been doing Reader's Workshop for several years, what are you finding are the biggest differences in your program and in the children?
Well, the children read far more than they ever did in my old Basel program. Reading and enjoying reading are the main events. I also notice they take books home every night and are excited about what they've read. Students know many authors. Parents often comment that children know more authors than they do. They're using the classroom library and the public library much more often. Scott even checked out 20 books the other day, and he says he's going to read them all.
How would you describe your children's successes in learning to read?
Since using Reader's Workshop, I see more children demonstrating independent reading behavior and a real enjoyment of reading and of books. Even students who have difficulty mastering strategies view themselves as readers and are enthused about books. This carries over into second grade. I attribute this success to the key components of Reader's Workshop: student ownership, choice, response, and awareness of reading behaviors. As students become active and engaged in decision-making about reading, they feel empowered and responsible for their own progress. This ownership and empowerment are the keys to student success.
Marianne, thank you so much for being with us today to share your journey of change. We invite you to take the same journey, to create a classroom where children are reading children's books, developing independence as readers, and learning to take responsibility for their own learning.
Challenge book? Is it okay to